for May 6th, 2021. And I would invite everyone to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
which
stands, one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The town of Burlington will be holding the May 6th meeting of the planning board as a virtual electronic meeting due to the current state of emergency due to the COVID-19 virus. As such, the governor issued an executive order on March 12, 2020, authorizing remote meetings under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20.
Liz, can you pick up where?
Sure.
Absolutely.
This meeting is being held via Cisco WebEx and is accessible in the following ways. Going to townofburlington.webex.com. Our meeting number is 129-300-1676, and the meeting password is 1645. You can join by phone by dialing 617-315-0704 with the access code 129-300-6176. This meeting is also being broadcast via BCAT on the government channel, which is Comcast 99, RCN 15, and Verizon channel 41, and streamed on Facebook Live and the BCAT Facebook page. The public will be able to make comments during the hearing. During the time for public comments, questions can be asked via WebEx, the WebEx chat function, Facebook Live, and by calling the planning office at 781-270-1645. Also, we will be monitoring our email, planning@burlington.org, during this meeting. All persons wishing to ask a question or make a comment must identify themselves. If you have any questions about participation during this meeting, please call planning staff at 781-270-1645 or email us at planning@burlington.org. And Chairman LaRue, we did not call roll to open the meeting.
Oh, well, I guess we should do that. And that will help me know who's here and who's not.
Sure. So Chairman LaRue.
Here.
Vice Chairman Impamba. Member Clerk Raymond. Member Covino.
Here.
Member Espejo. Member Gaffney.
Here.
Member Rappaport.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, well, the first item on our agenda is reorganization, but since we are missing 2 members, I'm going to ask for a motion to table that until we have a full board.
So moved.
Second. Bill.
Chairman LaRue.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impamba.
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond. Member Covino.
Yes.
Member Espejo.
Yes.
Member Gaffney.
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for Member Raymond, we do have a number of continuances, so why don't we get started on those? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, make a motion to take item 7J, 7K, 7I, 7L, 7M and 7N together and out of order for discussion purposes.
Second.
Chairman LaRue.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impamba.
Yes.
Hello.
Member Clerk Raymond.
Yes, I just got on. Yes, so whatever you're doing.
Okay. We're taking things out of order. Continuances. Member Covino.
Yes.
Member Espejo.
Yes.
Member Gaffney.
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to suggest that we just get all the continuances out of the way and then we can take back the reorg and put it back on the table. Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay. All right, so I am looking for another motion on page 4.
Madam Chair, make a motion to continue these matters to the planning board meeting of May 20th, 2021 as requested in an email by the applicant dated May 4th, 2021.
Thank you, Ernie. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Did you read what they? Are you
This
read
is-
what they are after?
Oh, you're right, I have to do that. Sorry.
I just want to
Flustered.
make sure
Okay,
people understand what
of course.
you're doing.
Item 7J is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 12.1.5 PD special permit of the zoning bylaw, 1 North Avenue, Desktop Metal Incorporated is the applicant. And the following 4 items are all at 1 North Avenue with Desktop Metal Incorporated as the applicant, and they are item 7K, a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 1.5.1 light manufacturing or processing plants of the Northwest Park PDD bylaw provisions. Item 7L, continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 1.5.2, laboratories engaged in research, experimental, and testing activities, including but not limited to the fields of biology, chemistry, electronics, engineering, geology, medicine, and physics, subject to the planning board making the findings set forth in section 8.3.7.4 of the zoning bylaws, and subject to the applicable rules and regulations of the Board of Health of the Northwest Park PDD bylaw. Item 7N is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 1.5.4 hazardous and toxic materials, chemical use, storage, transport, disposal, or discharge of the Northwest Park PDD bylaw provisions. And item 7N is a continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 1.5.5, generation or storage of hazardous waste limited to the volumes classified as very small quantity generator of the Northwest Park PDD bylaw provisions. And Ernie has made the motion to continue these matters to the meeting of May 20, 2021, and I'm looking for a second.
Second?
Thank you.
Chairman LaRue,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo, Member Gaffney,
Yes. Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay. And now I need another motion on page 4, please.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take items 7O, 7P, 7Q, and 7R together and out of order for discussion purposes.
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman LaRue,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Impemba.
I already said.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Member Rappaport,
Yes.
Member Gaffney.
Yes.
Okay. Item 7O is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 6.1.1.2, expansion of a non-conforming use of the zoning bylaws, 207 Cambridge Street, Phase 0 design is the applicant. And the following 3 items are all at 207 Cambridge Street for Phase 0 design. Item 7P is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.3.2.15, storage and disposal of oils and fuels or petroleum products of the zoning bylaws. Item 7Q is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.3.2.16, storage of hazardous and toxic materials or chemicals for retail sale. And item 7R is a discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change.
So if I may, Madam Chair, can I give a brief update on this item?
Please.
Sure. So just a little bit of background. So Phase 0 Design is working on behalf of O'Reilly Auto Parts, which is looking to occupy the space of the old Burlington Auto store. The planning board did a site walk of that site, and we kind of determined that the site, we have a site plan from 1992. It's very old. We need to have something that's a little more up to date. So we have asked the property owner to provide a site plan prior to O'Reilly coming before the board. So O'Reilly kindly said that they would be willing to do that. So that is why they are continuing. So we will not hear from O'Reilly until August, should you vote to do so. And we should be getting a site plan from the property owner at 207 in the near future.
Okay.
So Liz, can I add to that just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yes, Liz, thank you for giving us the update. You've been great. Liz has been great coordinating all of these parties together to make sure this goes smoothly. So as you guys know, there's the drainage issue that goes onto Cambridge Street. That's an item for which the site plan needs to be created for. There's also a question, the Conservation Commission went out there and back of the site about some potential wetland areas that may need to be delineated. And then, as you guys know, from the discussion with the supermarket, there's a bunch of items on the site that are not included in the site plan that need to be, so the site plan needs to be updated. So all of that is ongoing. There are a lot of neighbors that have reached out to get the meeting information. And we want to just reach out to all of those people. I know a couple of us have emailed and we've let people know, but anyone who's on the phone or listening or on TV, if you want to be updated, so all of you within the statutory notification area outside of the site, when the site plan comes in, we'll get notified of that hearing date. But in terms of all of anything else going on the site, if you'd like to be notified and be on our internal communication email group, please email us at planning@burlington.org with your name and email and what you're emailing about, i.e. 207 Cambridge Street. So we can keep you up to date with this project as it moves forward in the different phases. And O'Reilly, who's actually continued until August 19th, 2021. So this will be a couple of months of a bunch of different things ongoing. I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to, if anyone wants to ask questions just about, not about the project, just about the process, or any questions about leaving our email, I'm happy to entertain those quickly now. But otherwise, in order for us to, get you the information you need, if you can send us your email, and Jen will put it on the contact list for the projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Liz. Is there anyone here that would like to ask a question regarding process for this particular site, or who had any questions about informing our staff so that you can remain informed? Okay.
Hello.
Oh,
Bill,
hello.
Hi, it's Deborah Walker.
Hello, Ms. Walker.
Hi.
What can we do for you tonight?
So this means that the compressor issue is going to go on also until August with the noise and whatever.
no, this means that through the site plan, hopefully we'll be able to get that addressed.
Okay. And the site plan is due when?
I'll let Liz answer because she's been working on getting that.
So, so I've been very clear with the property owner that it needs to be in. I've also been told by the property owner that O'Reilly is a tenant that they want to get in there, so they are motivated to kind of get this together. And we're going to make sure that I would like to have it in by the end of this month. That would be my goal. But we'll see what we can do. I can't promise you anything, but I'm going to work my hardest to make sure that it happens.
Okay. No, I understand that. What I don't understand is not you guys, but the town in general, just allowing this guy to do whatever he wanted without any consequences as far as the compressors go, where he pulled them did them with no permits and whatever. But I know that's not your issue. I appreciate you keeping me in the loop.
So we are trying to resolve all these issues. That's one of the reasons why O'Reilly backed off, because they wanted to really make sure that these issues were resolved before they came in for the discussion through permitting. So, but they're still here. They're interested in the site, and Liz has been doing a great job with the property owner getting this tied together. So we hope that we can deliver to you some improvements in the near future with the property owner.
Okay, that's all I can ask for.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Is there anyone else that had any questions on this matter?
Bill has his hand up, Madam Chair. Member
Bill?
Gaffney.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question was similar to Mrs. Walker's, was that with regard to the process of the plan, the compressors that weren't approved can't be on the plan, right?
We want them to be on the plan so that the entire site, we can have an accurate site plan.
They
We
can't
want-
stay if you don't approve them.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we could write an enforcement letter and have them removed immediately, or we hopefully can get them on a plan and work through the process to what they should be doing. And they've assured us that they're working on sound attenuation as we speak.
Well,
So I've heard that before. So,
yeah.
so I'm kind of confused about the process because typically an applicant comes in for compressors where we talk about sound, and it's that particular applicant that comes in and we review his particular situation. In this case, it's going to be another applicant for the auto parts store with compressors that haven't been approved already on an approved plan, or the plan that they're going to give us is not approved.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
The property owner needs to come in with a plan for your approval before O'Reilly Auto Parts moves forward.
But the applicant who actually has compressors is not going to do a separate one, although the compressors are associated with that particular applicant. That's
We
where
have we've asked the property owner to have, because what was happening was we had 3 different site plans or draft plans for 3 different tenants. There's
Mhm.
one site and one property owner. We want to make sure they coordinate with all the tenants so we see everything associated with the site on one site plan, as every commercial site plan or every commercial site in town needs to be up to date with an improved what's on the ground site plan, or they're not in compliance with your rules and regulations.
Yeah. So normally what I see is on these is the applicant comes in for their particular thing, and I don't see the rest of the site with the site plan. For example, Crossroads, someone came in and they were looking at an addition for the back. I didn't see anything from Marshalls. I didn't see anything at Target. I didn't see anything from CVS. In this case, we're kind of going differently. That we're saying, okay, give us the entire site plan, and we're gonna approve the compressors, not for the person that's being the applicant, but for another guy that's not even an applicant. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit different here. What I'd like to see is that applicant come in with his approved site plan, and that can be the same site plan that we say, okay, for you, you had your 2 compressors or 5 compressors, or however many had back there. I think it was what, at least
6.
right? 6 of them. So I said, so then we approve that based on his situation, and then we take the auto parts store on the same site plan. I'm fine with that. That's where I'd be on that, because I don't understand how we're not taking that one applicant that had the compressors and the lean-to structure he had above the compressors and everything else on his site, and then maybe even the other applicants that have everything with got the trash compactors and everything that is associated with other applicants that we have to really tidy that up with. So they're kind of, how if I sit back a little bit, I'm like, how does he not come before us to address the situation on that particular applicant?
Right.
He's like getting off the hook,
Right. Because
That applicant was,
I want to caution a little bit. We're continuing this item and no one from the applicant team is here. I do appreciate this conversation in terms of process, but I want to make sure we don't kind of cross that line of talking about the matter itself without the applicant being able to be present. So.
Kristen, I have a question. I'd like to make a suggestion as well. You had said that we could do an enforcement letter and have the compressors removed immediately. I'd like to ask if we can do something a little bit in between, because obviously Liz is working really hard to get this moving forward in a timely manner. I sense that perhaps it's not moving as it should. Could we perhaps send an enforcement letter saying that they have, we can 2 weeks or whatever the time frame is that we think is appropriate to get that information in and to provide the noise attenuation, and if it's not done by the end of that period, they need to be removed.
Well,
yeah, we can work on that. Again, I mean, we're trying to work through the process to get that all addressed without. Anyway, yes, we can do that.
Okay, I think that might make sense. It gives us some leverage, and it will get the noise attenuation put in sooner.
but what I don't understand is why is he even allowed to keep them if he never even permitted them or had permission to keep them there? And then he just has to, I think they should be taken out, but.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Of course, Joe, please go ahead.
Yep. So wouldn't it be more appropriate, instead of having all these people come in with their site plans, that we have the landowner, because all of these changes to the site plan should be going through the landowner, and the landowner is really the one that should be submitting a site plan. There should be one site plan for the whole site, and it should be through the landowner. And I guess my concern is that, do we have a site plan without all the changes that have physically taken place on there? So one that has been approved in the past that we can then compare this new one to? Or are we gonna just, is it the honor system where they're gonna come in and say, oh, this is new and that isn't new? And
We
this,
have an old site plan from 1992. Liz is
Okay.
working very diligently with the property owner to
Yep.
get everything in order. So he, the property owner, is coming in with all the changes on sites on the
Right.
site on behalf of his tenants and or removing things and
Right,
changing things on behalf
right,
of his
okay.
tenants.
So we have an approved site plan. The latest approved
An
site
old
plan
one.
was back in 1994.
Yeah,
And,
sorry.
and alls we should be dealing with is the landowner. We shouldn't be dealing with any tenants as far as the site plan goes. I don't think. I feel like, it should be the landowner and the management company, whoever they want to send representing them is who we should be dealing with as a board, right?
I think that's what our staff is suggesting, Jeff.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, kind of, right? But I'm hearing that, they're saying, well, they want to get the other guy coming forward with the,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the staff, maybe.
Let me clarify my concern here. So we've got a person that came before us and he had some chillers or compressors out there that weren't approved. Now we're getting in a site approval. He should be doing nothing to the compressors right now, right? There should be no soundproofing going on right now until it comes before us to tell me what he's doing. And then we take a look at that and improve that. So there should be nothing going on right now with regard to soundproofing, right?
And it all should be.
There is
Yep,
anything
I'm
going,
sorry.
but
No,
that's
go ahead.
not,
What
Okay.
I said, it's ongoing. What I meant to say was he's working with the property owner to update the site plan to show what he's hoping to put in soundproofing,
Okay.
so we all
Okay.
can see it on the site plan.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
apologize if I
okay, I'm
spoke
gonna
too
call a
quickly on
halt to this now because we
Yeah.
are getting too deep into the weeds on this. It's being continued. We need to take this matter up at our next meeting. And in the meantime, we're gonna be working with the property owner to get it all squared away. And we can stay in close contact with staff so that we can keep tabs on it.
So
Okay.
just one point of clarification so I know the landowner also owns that strip in the front, which shares a parking lot. Are they different site plans or are we able to look at this whole thing? And even though there are different owners, there's other buildings that share a parking lot.
There's two different sites. We're working with the property owner to see what we can see on a single or multiple site plans.
Oh, okay. So again, I just want the clarification I want is that there are multiple buildings, even buildings that are not owned by this landlord, that appear to share drive lanes and parking spots as well. How does that affect this?
Joe, I think I'm happy to answer the question offline. I'm uncomfortable
Yeah.
continuing too much without.
Yeah,
the
give us a call. Give us our office a call, Joe. I'll talk to you. Give me a call, please.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, everybody.
If they're good
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to take item 7S out of order for discussion purposes, please.
We didn't continue this one.
Oh, we didn't. Okay.
Motion
Sorry.
to
Madam Chair.
continue these matters to the planning board meeting of August 19th, 2021, as requested by the applicant in a email, dated April 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Amy.
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman LaRue,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, everybody. And now I'm looking for a motion to take item 7S out of order for discussion purposes.
Madam Chair, may I make a motion to take 7S out of order for discussion purposes?
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman LaRue,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay, item 7S is a public hearing, application for approval of an amendment to a definitive subdivision plan, 4 and 5 Redmond Street, Murray Hills Incorporated is the applicant. Do we need to have an update on this, or we're just continuing till May 4th?
I don't have an update since the last
Okay.
meeting, so I would just. keep
Okay,
it.
very good, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of May 20th, as requested in an email by the applicant dated May 4th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman LaRue,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba, Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, everybody. So at the beginning of the meeting, we tabled our reorganization until we had all members present, and I would like to suggest now that we take that off the table and bring it up. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank
You
you,
can say
Rhonda.
all in favor if you're on this one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, great. So we are reorganizing since the election in April, and I would like to open the floor to nominations for the planning board officers. And I actually would like to make the first nomination. I move to nominate Brenda Rappaport for the position of chairman.
Second.
And I repeat, Member Rappaport nominated for the position of chairman. Do I have a second?
Do you want a second for that motion?
I do.
Well, I second it.
Thank you. Do we need roll call?
Let's see, and then you should ask, are there any more nominations for
Oh.
chair?
Are there any other nominations for chair?
So then say nominations for chair are closed.
Nominations for chair are closed. Thanks, Kristen.
All right. Thank you, the other members who made the suggestion. So now, you
Roll
can
call?
roll call.
Yep.
The motion.
Chairman LaRue,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I am keeping the floor open for motions, and hopefully the next would be for vice.
So I'd like to make a motion for Bill Gaffney for vice chair.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Member Gaffney has been nominated for the position of vice chair, and it has been seconded. Are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair? Okay, seeing none, let us vote on that.
So nominations for vice chair are closed.
Nominations for vice chair are closed. We
is
clearly
the
don't do
first
this
time we're
very
doing
often.
All right, so Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Rappaport.
No, you already did her.
Sorry, Member LaRue, sorry.
Yes, yes, and now I'm going to officially turn it all over to Brenda from here on. Congratulations, Brenda,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
and congratulations, Bill.
Okay,
And-
now
and
Brenda
thank you,
can
Barbara.
carry us
Thank you.
into member clerk.
Okay, so do I have any nominations for the position of member clerk? Anyone?
Also make a nomination if you'd like.
Sorry, what was that, Kristen?
I said that the chair can also nominate if, or if it's just gonna be a silence.
Come on, guys. Somebody want to step up to clerk?
I'll re-up if you want. I mean, it's a great spot for me.
Okay,
You don't
Madam
have to
Chair,
do
I
anything.
move to nominate Paul Raymond for the position of member clerk.
I would second that.
So
Okay.
any other nominations for member clerk?
Are there any other nominations for member clerk?
And nominations
Let's
for
make it by
member,
acclamation.
for member clerk are closed.
Nominations for member clerk are closed.
Liz.
So Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member LaRue,
Yes.
Member, who am I missing? Member Impemba.
Yes.
Member
that's it.
Raymond.
Madam
Member
Chair, may I
Raymond.
make one quick comment?
Of course.
I just want to thank all three members who are stepping up, Member Rappaport, Chairman Rappaport, Vice Chairman Gaffney, and Member Clerk Raymond for taking on the additional responsibilities. It's a lot of work, and I'm very happy and grateful that you're taking it on. I know you'll do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Rappaport, can I just make one comment?
Of course.
I just want to thank previous Chairman LaRue for her very hard work and very good job during this extremely trying period of COVID-19. I know it's been, it was a big change, let me put it that way, and I think she's done a good job. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernie. I appreciate that. Our staff has done a fantastic job. They made it easy. Thank you.
I think everybody on the board certainly seconds Ernie's commendation for the chair.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Take it
Moving
away,
on to-
Krista.
So
Thank you.
you guys are
Oh.
picking up with citizens time.
Yes. Anyone wishing to ask a question shall identify themselves prior to asking a question or making a statement. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay, moving on to announcements.
We see,
Madam
we see no
Chair,
one.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Clerk Raymond?
Paul Raymond. Well, the second thing, we usually, when we reorganize, we do the chair, but we also do the Recreation Commissioner. So
Excellent
I
point.
think we should do that.
Excellent point.
Good point.
Member Raymond, or Member Clerk Raymond is correct, and we should do that.
Well, I would like to nominate Bill Gaffney to take over as liaison to the Recreation Department.
I will second that.
As long as he splits his stipend with us, that'd be fine. No, I would
Any
agree.
other
Bill,
nominations for Recreation liaison?
As the present commissioner, I'm very happy that Bill is willing to do that. It's very important to recreation to have that person in right away. There are only 5 people. And Madam Chair, I would just like to make a comment because not a lot of people understand that 2 members of the Recreation Commission are not elected at large. And just to let the person that's going to be the Recreation Commissioner know, it says on here in section 11 of our bylaws, it is voted that the town establish a Recreation Commission to consist of, and this is the first thing it says, 1 member designated by the planning board, 1 member designated school committee, and 3 members elected by the voters at the 1967 town meeting and so forth. So there are 2 members of the Recreation Commission that are not voted at large. And not everybody understands that. And I looked up designate just to tell you how they're chosen. And the dictionary says designate is to appoint or choose by name for a special purpose. So I think we've just done that with Bill. And I'm pleased that he is willing to do that. We have a wonderful recreation. I've been on it for 20 years, and it's one of the outstanding things about the town of Burlington, if you want to know.
I
Thank
agree.
you.
Thank you, Clerk Raymond. And thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Great job.
Do we need to vote on this?
Yes, you need to do roll call.
Yes.
All right, so Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Impemba,
Yes.
Member LaRue,
Yes.
Okay, moving on to announcements.
Sure. So I will do announcements if that's okay. So just quickly, so the National Planning Conference for staff is happening. It's the May 5th through the 7th. It's happening virtually. So all of us have kind of been going on and off these virtual sessions. It was supposed to be held in Boston this year, which would have been really fun, but unfortunately it's all online this year. So we've been doing a lot of that. There's a sculpture park update that member LaRue will hopefully give us. I
Okay,
have on
thank
my
you.
list.
Madam Chair, with your approval, there's actually quite a bit to talk about on the sculpture park. What you can see on the screen is a new sculpture that is soon going to be coming to our park. The Sculpture Park Committee voted on it today, and we are now just waiting for approval from the Board of Selectmen. And this is very unusual because it's a sculpture that is being donated to the park by a member of the community in honor of her parents. So there'll be a whole lot of information about that coming up in the months ahead. As the sculpture is built, it's going to be a tweaked version of this because this shows 2 male cardinals, and the sculpture that we are getting will have a pair of cardinals, 1 male and 1 female. It's very exciting for us because this is a new way for us to get sculptures in the park, and it's very exciting, and it's a beautiful sculpture, and so you'll be learning a lot more about the people that this is in honor of in the months ahead. In addition to that, we have also contracted with an artist who is going to be building stone benches on the site so that people can sit and enjoy the artwork. We are very grateful to the DPW and the Highway Department who have helped us moving boulders from the Mary Cummings property to the site of the sculpture park. It's not all the way done, but they're getting them over there. Most of them are over. There's some more to come over. And throughout the month of May, I don't know exactly the starting date, there will be an artist at the site working on these stone benches, and people can walk by and watch the work as it's happening. I think it's going to be really exciting for the community to see this artwork in process. And then when it's done, we'll have a lovely place to sit and enjoy the park. So lots going on at the sculpture park.
Thank you, Member LaRue.
Thank you.
So other bit of information is, as you all know, May Town Meeting is happening this Monday, May 10th at 7:30 p.m. Via WebEx, and it's also going to be broadcast on BCAT. It's a very long warrant, so we do expect it to go multiple nights. And then a save the date. Northwest Park Housing Committee will be meeting on Thursday, May 13th at noon. We are getting the draft marketing plan from the property management company, and we'll be sending that out soon, and come to the meeting and we'll be talking about that. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chairman Rappaport.
Can I just quickly on the on town meeting, in terms of the zoning articles, we probably will not see them, if at the earliest, maybe late Wednesday, probably not till the following Monday. But we do have our budget, which hopefully will go through smoothly, but budgets will most likely be the first day if they get into capital. That'd be great. But anyway, just letting you know in terms of how where we sit within the warrant in a couple days. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. So we do not have any legal notices. We do not have any non-approvals, and no administrative matters or matters. Do we have any matters of appointment?
Yes.
We sure do.
Okay. We have a motion, please.
Motion to take item 7A through 7I together for discussion purposes and vote on them by cluster.
Second.
A second?
Second. Bill?
Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Impemba,
Yes.
Member LaRue.
Yes.
7A is a public hearing, a petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 20 South Avenue, submitted by the planning board. 7B is a public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 40 South Avenue, submitted by the planning board. 7C is a public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 70 Blanchard Road, submitted by the planning board. 7D is a public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 76 Blanchard Road, submitted by the planning board. 7E, public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 78 Blanchard Road, submitted by the planning board. 7H, public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 80 Blanchard Road, submitted by the planning board. 7G, public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 20 Blanchard Road, submitted by the planning board. 7H, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 99 South Bedford Street, submitted by the planning board. 7I is a public hearing, petition to rezone property to the high-rise industrial IH District, 111 South Bedford Street, submitted by the planning board. I just want to make note that I did review last week's meeting and have completed the Mullen forms for everyone's information.
Chairman Rappaport, this is Bill Gaffney. I did as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to pick up with that, but you can certainly, Madam Chair, if I may. I
Please.
just wanted to ask the group, I've given the presentation a bunch of times to a bunch of different groups as well as to this group. I'm happy to go through the presentation again, but wasn't sure the level of questions that you guys still had. So I just wanted to, I'm going to put the picture of the map up. If you'd like me to go through the presentation again, I can, but just wanted to kind of get a general sense from this group. Your thoughts before I did that, since it's essentially the same thing I went through at the last meeting. But again, happy to do it. So just wanted to share this slide. So just to orient everyone. So with that, I would ask if you'd like to just pull the board if they'd like me to go through the whole thing, or if they felt comfortable with the presentation from the last meeting.
I'm comfortable with what's been presented so far. Would anyone else like a review of any of the clusters or all of the clusters again?
Madam Chair, this is Paul Raymond. I do have a question about all of these, to be honest with you. But Member Impemba had some questions about the implications for some of the rezonings allowing more extensive changes than we envisioned in the way that they're wording. And I would like to have him expand on that a little bit if he was willing to, because these are, we're taking, you know, significant chunks of land and, you know, rezoning like 6 or 8 all at once. And I've never, in the time that I've on the board, seen something of that extent go forward without being more comfortable with what the implications are. I would rather see it done one at a time. I would rather see, if we want to, South Avenue, that's a significant spot and important because of its location. And if we want to rezone that, I would say fine, let's see how it goes before we go down and rezone the whole of Blanchard Road. So that's my comment.
So with that, Madam Chair, I think I might just do a brief review, just so we're all on the same page as questions come in, if that's okay.
Sure. I was wondering, you know, do we think we were voting on these separately? Should we just discuss A, then address those questions that are related to A? Let's do B. Just that work.
We can discuss them separately. If you don't mind, let me just do a quick overview.
Sure.
Just so I can position everybody and remind them again, just kind of the reason and rationale behind this move and then get into that. So I won't take too much time.
Great, thank you, Kristen.
Kristen,
Ma- Madam-
since this slide is already up, can you just tell us what the numbers are in yellow, please?
So the numbers in yellow are the existing buildings floor area ratio.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, just one point, if I may.
Please.
Joe and Pemba, yeah. So Kristen, when you do that, because Paul raised the raised the fact that I had a question at the last meeting, and while you do the overview, could you address that piece of it as well, which was, do any of the parcels have adjacent or abutting wetlands that, if they were purchased, would be able to add to the square footage of the property itself, and therefore combined with the parking garage, parking structure piece of the bylaw could allow for additional built square footage.
I will, to the best of my ability, I will try.
Okay, thank
As
you.
I go through. So 2 articles, you've already voted on Article 34. Article 33 is amending the zoning map to rezone properties into the high-rise industrial districts. This is not to amend the IH text, it's an amendment. It is simply to put these properties into the high-rise industrial district. Just kind of how we got here. We've taken a lot of time to reposition Burlington to into biotechnology as well as life science and advanced manufacturing. We are on the map in 2017. We landed Millipore. It's kind of what not unlike Sun, that when Sun came, everyone kind of came behind the Millipore. It was, why aren't we seeing movement? So we were looking at that, made changes in 2019. How do we catch a $10 billion industry? 2020, we rezoned 3 additional properties that have borne quite a bit of fruit so far, with Azure at 60 Blanchard, 300 Summit. We have an approved building. And in 2020, we're just really looking to keep that momentum, especially in post-COVID, to really focus on diversifying our industrial spaces in town. Life science report, just to, again, I know you guys all know this, but just to emphasize how huge a life science market is in Massachusetts and Boston area. I mean, it's the epicenter of the world for this industry. There's 3.5 million square feet in demand today that is unfilled. So it's definitely an industry that we're looking to continue to diversify existing office as we're seeing office shrinkage with different types of industries to come in. High rise, we've had questions about the high rise district. It's not technically the high rise district. It's, when it was developed in 1977, it pretty much to build 7 New England Executive Park, 700 district, however you remember that building. In 2020, we took all of those dimensional requirements, pushed them way down to be a lot more similar to IG. We did allow a slightly higher height than IG, but way down from the 155 that the IH had previously had. The IH district also does allow for structured parking, and it does allow for potentially the option to go to a 0.5 FAR if you have lab included in your building. And that was the reason to show where we were now with those buildings in FAR. This is the map of the cluster. I'll go back to it, showing the floor area ratio, but really wanted to highlight why we're here, and highlight Northeastern being a huge component of the talent pool and a lot of work that's coming out of Northeastern, and really linking Northeastern and the work that they're doing to our commercial corridor and our commercial partners, as well as the town. And as you guys know, Mary Cummings Park, now taken over by the trustees, is a wonderful resource. This corridor has a lot of opportunities that I think are, not yet present, that we want to continue to work on. Again, clustering, we're seeing just people like to be together, as we've seen in previous industries with, as I mentioned earlier, Sun and Oracle and everybody kind of coming in and clustering together and clustering the talents. So that is kind of a buzzword, but it's a buzzword that's good for marketing and good for us. again, Northeastern, they're doing amazing things up there. It's not your adult education center as it was in the 80s. They're doing amazing cutting edge research at the campus that we should all be proud of. Why now? Why are we doing this? There is no project that's knocking on our door that's saying we need to do this right now. But what we do know is there is a lot of funding coming down. There's a lot of funding right now within the state funding in terms of through the Community One Stop. There's other federal funding through the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is what funnels all of our federal transportation funding through. And as we know, there's a lot of talk about additional infrastructure funding that will be available. So what it just kind of, it's important for us to look at how do we want to be repositioning this corridor? What initiatives are we taking that first step to realize the different things that can happen, but at the same time, use that to help educate, through in the folks that are offering these state grants, as well as existing projects like the Cambridge Bedford South Bedford Street intersection in Woburn that sit on the transportation improvement program, but the MPO just slated it for 2025 to get funded or to get completed. I mean, it was very good that we were able to secure the funding to get the plan together. But now it's on the tip on 2025. We want to move that forward. We want to have good reasons why we want to move that forward to get that intersection done, to enhance the Blanchard Wheeler corridor, which is critically in need of enhancements of flooding issues, sidewalks, bike paths, access to Mary Cummings and the trustee property, as well as traffic, reduce the bottlenecks and reduce the cut through neighborhoods that happen because of these bottlenecks and insufficient roadway conditions. So it's really, taking this action now. A lot of these grant funding programs are due in June. We're right now looking at different programs to fund a planning and infrastructure analysis. So we can hopefully then next year look for other capital funding sources and MassWorks and other funding programs to get it done. We would look to all the neighborhoods and the residents of those neighborhoods to help us through that process to identify what's really needed in this corridor and leverage public-private partnerships. And this is just a photo, the bottom right here. This is a photo of the existing intersection, which is geometrically definitely needs a lot of improvement. And this is Mary Cummings Park, but also Oracle on the bottom right, where they have actually built some nice sidewalks, the parking lot for Mary Cummings. And then the other photos, other than Mary Cummings, are things that hopefully we can incorporate within the roadway to improve the whole section of town on that side. So that's where we are. So I'm going to sit on this slide, and then to the chairman's suggestion, if you guys want to, I'm going to sit on the slide and answer Joe's question. So in cluster A, you have the cinema and extended stay. These areas are already built. As you know, Millipore's here. The footprints are old. There is an already permitted building here, so there's no way you can have additional land to go higher. The cinema is a lower FAR. The extended stay is at a 0.45. We likely will see in this cluster A tear down rebuild. You guys have driven this corridor thousands and thousands of times. This site is a premier site in Burlington. It's kind of high up on that hill. Visible from both 128 or 95 and Route 3. This is that big fish landing pad that could really make a big difference for us. And, as much as we like the cinema and enjoyed the cinema, we also recognize that it is potential. Both of those properties are aging buildings and probably should be thought of as the next phase. Cluster B is a property that is 70 Blanchard, which is that kind of half moon glass building you see very close to the highway. The other two, which is already at a 0.5, the other three buildings, 76, 78, and 80. 78 is a newer building built in 2012. That's built at a 0.66. The 0.5 and 0.43 is 76 and 80. Those buildings, the property owner is actually, I believe, on this this WebEx, but they're looking, some of those tenants are looking to diversify some of those tenants. Those smaller buildings actually are well fitted to do some additional life science fit up on the second floor through the roof. So they're looking to diversify those sites. On the right side of this building, this is the 60 Blanchard, where you just saw where we just permitted a ZOR. And on the other side, where this kind of triangle shape is, this is where it was just permitted the jumbo self-storage. So there is not an opportunity here to expand on additional space next in the neighborhood there. Cluster C, this is 20 Blanchard, 99 and 111 South Bedford Street. These are all owned by the R.J. Kelly companies. These are a mix. I mean, these are aging buildings. They've been utilized actually quite effectively for different uses. But again, just really want to promote re-tenanting and different tenant options and place them in a good market position, especially being as close as they are to Northeastern, to hopefully spur out some of the smaller businesses and that Northeastern spinning out and other kind of opportunities within these buildings, and or really further down the line they could have an opportunity to potentially reposition, but again, or rebuild. But again, you're still looking at, one of the buildings is 0.442, one of them 0.24, the other 0.430. You could potentially see some expansion, but these buildings almost for the most part are 1.5, some parts 2 stories. So the footprints themselves are taking up quite a bit of space. I hope that answered your question, Member Mpemba. And if there's any other questions from the group, I will wish I could see you better when I have the slides up. Let's see.
Yeah, Kristen, it's more, the question I have is a little more specific. It's more if there was any contiguous land that was, in particular, was wetlands or conservation that currently can't be built on, but when you combine the the IH and the parking structures, once you add the wetland, it doesn't matter that it's not buildable anymore. It now becomes part of their square footage. So normally they may be limited. If it's wetlands, they can't put parking on it. But now that you can put a structure, you can add the square footage of the wetlands to your land and would allow you to build more building.
So had jumbo self-storage not been permitted and it's under construction now, I could have said that for the property right here, but I cannot say that at this point, that there's adjacent unbuilt area that could be added to have that scenario play out.
Unbuildable area, you mean? Unbuildable area, like wetlands?
No,
Not
within
unbuilt,
the properties
unbuildable.
that you're seeing, there is no adjacent unbuildable area.
Okay.
It's not already, so there's no unbuildable area that they could capture to then build more on these
For
properties.
square footage purpose, right, okay.
Right.
All right, great,
Yep.
that's perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Does anyone else have any questions? Great.
Madam Chair, I had a quick question, or a couple of them actually.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think from the last meeting, at least from the tape, I think there was concerns from other members with regard to the Blanchard Road. I mean the South Bedford Street property, Cluster C. I'm concerned about the Blanchard Road becoming a what I think you termed a corridor. Again, you're going to be putting 2 of these clusters on Blanchard, and we all know that it's not a street in its current condition to be heavily traveled on. And I don't know how much you can do to that if you're going to expand it, widen it, put lights on it, sidewalks and things like that. So again, I'm always seeing, the cart before the horse. We're again looking at Cluster C, putting that up, and haven't really done anything yet on the Cambridge Street South Bedford intersection, which is we agreed to get that jump started for the Northeastern. I'm not sure that I'm convinced that you want to put the cluster up against the Mary Cummings. I mean, the idea here is to kind of separate Mary Cummings from maybe from additional kind of higher development. I think my question I have, how high is the Nokia building across the street from Cluster C, across South Bedford Street? Does anybody know offhand? Is that, it's 5, 6, 7 stories? Would that be 100 feet? How high is the Nokia building right across the street there?
I'm just trying to, the South
Right.
Bedford where Nuance and
Right
Microsoft is
there,
right now?
yeah, right there, right above the 3.0, yeah.
I think Nuance is
Nuance is 5 floors.
five.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say 4, but it's okay, it's 5. And that the same for Microsoft, I believe for Microsoft. So I mean those building, I don't have an exact height, but
15,
hmm?
how high is the floor then? 15 feet, 20 feet per floor?
I don't think it's that high for the office building.
Yeah, I think I have the same concern as maybe some other members that you have residents down once you go past, the Mayor Cummings Park there to the right, to the old military
I will
housing.
remind you that the height restriction is still in place and as adjacent to residential where you can go up to in IH 90 feet,
Mhm.
but it's 30 feet if you're within 200 feet of a residential, and it goes 15 feet for every 100 feet you're away from a residential, it goes 15 feet higher. So
Mhm.
these buildings on the corner of Blanchard and South Bedford being right across the street from those houses are never going to realize a 90-foot height limit because, I mean, they're going from 30, maybe you could get to 45 as you go further toward Vandegraff, but
Yeah.
45 to, but you're not
Yeah.
going to ever get higher than the Nuance building.
Yeah, no, so the houses are actually not across the street. They're down past Mary Cummings to the
Yeah,
right.
they're right under where you see 0.42. Those
Yeah.
are the, old army quote houses. So those are zoned RO. So those are, you'd measure from that distance.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're never gonna realize the 90 feet on that corner. You're gonna as I said, it's gonna go 30 to maybe 45.
The maximum 45 over there.
45 to, way in the back corner toward Vandegraff, you might be able to go a little higher, but
Okay, and they're
Good.
currently one-story buildings right now?
they're 1 to 2 story, mostly one. Some of them have like a 2-story portion.
So it probably is not gonna get too much higher than it currently is because of the residential proximity. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, the control factor for residential proximity to the RO district is right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Kristen.
And as I
And-
mentioned, I mean, when we're looking to reposition these sites for different uses. And as mentioned previously, in other rezonings and life science in general, that your general office to life science, you're seeing a lot less trips. You're using a lot more space for R&D and lab, not people. So you're not packing as many people into these sites. And then further, for cluster A is really the only place that we expect to see any significant new redevelopment at this time. And not even at this time, but potentially, based on this change. Thank you. Great.
So,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, just, so I had asked this question in the past as well, is that if our intention of doing the IH is to draw life sciences, which, by nature have a higher ceiling, so we therefore expanded the height a little bit, to accommodate that. Do we want to make sure in that zoning that we don't, that we have a minimum, that we're gonna have a minimum height per floor? So that we're not, tearing a building down and now putting up a building that, because of the additional height, is able to squeeze in another floor and therefore more density and therefore more cars into that area. I think the purpose was to accommodate the life sciences, which was the additional ceiling height and not additional density. So how would we address that? Would that be at this point, or would we?
Well, I don't think that's, I mean, when we're looking at buildings that I don't think are going to necessarily be taken down, especially cluster B at this point, could, as well as with the IH text amendments that we made at the last meeting, the January 2020 town meeting, to really incentivize under building parking. And that's why we allowed the height to go up. So we want to make sure that you can utilize your site as, wisely, so you can, potentially we can work with them to get that additional green space and other site design pieces that we wouldn't get if it was just a site and,
Right.
paved all around.
Just
So
want to
that
make
was
sure
the
that we have
purpose for
assurances
that
in
height.
place that, with the additional height, we're not now inviting additional levels, right? The height is really to accommodate certain things under building parking, and as well as life sciences, which require higher ceilings and therefore not
Right.
any additional
Well,
square footage.
as I mentioned, I mean, right now IG is 80 feet. IH is a little bit higher at 90. But
Right.
we're
So
not,
so
where
90
they are
to,
now is already,
right.
in the IG district.
But I guess my point, to make it very simple, would be, an additional 10 feet could invite an additional floor, right? I mean, you technically would be able to squeeze an additional floor in there.
You potentially could, but I mean, in cluster B, you're already pretty much maxed out under FAR, if not actually higher in some of it. So you can't build an additional floor for additional square footage if you're already maxed out from the square footage that's here now. In cluster B. In cluster C, yeah, you could potentially add square footage but in order to add square footage in cluster C, it would need to be a new project, because as I mentioned, these buildings right now
Right.
are very much single story and taking up so much of the site. So
And they're very, I mean, I mean, some of these buildings are somewhat antiquated, right? I mean,
Right.
it wouldn't really be a stretch to say that they may rebuild. And my only concern is that they tear it down and rebuild. We don't get additional square footage, because that area of town really can't handle any more square footage. Right? I mean, and the, kind of the reason for doing this was to accommodate higher ceilings and not additional square footage.
Mhm.
And parking underneath and not additional square footage. So,
yeah, as I mentioned, cluster B, you're not going to see it any, if tiny bit. Cluster A, you could see additional, especially the cinema site, but you're still on Middlesex Turnpike. There's a lot of permeability to a lot of other roadways. And cluster C, I will say that the bottleneck at Cambridge, South Bedford is a big issue that we hope to put some more heat on that, with, emphasizing, this rezoning, and put some more heat on that project to get it moved up further. So to Bill's point, that it does get done, because that's an existing issue in this corridor that needs to get fixed, whether we do this or not. But if we can make this move and really show that we're, as a community, trying to reposition sites for growth, and most grant applications are, what are you doing to see economic growth? That it helps us to make the argument there for cluster C. But again, cluster C is also, you have Wayside, South Bedford, and other ways to get in and out of the site. And cluster B, as I mentioned, yes, does sit halfway through Wheeler and Blanchard, but is already, you see pretty much the max of the square footage that you're going to see within that cluster.
okay.
Madam Chair, just to follow up, Madam Chair, if I may, real quick.
Of course.
So when you're talking, you talked about the residential proximity. So now I kind of moved down to cluster B. In those two brown little marks there, about below the 0.50. Is that the two mobile homes that are on Blanchard Road? Right there?
Yes, those.
Would
those
those be
two
considered
tiny marks.
Yeah, would those be considered an RO district or residential proximity to those buildings? Again,
No, no, those would not. I believe they sit on IG land. The use itself is, I think, life estate grandfathered with the mobile homes. I'm not sure exactly. There's a mechanism that somehow they sunset, I believe, but it's an IH property underneath the mobile home, so they
Okay.
would not be, since it's not RO zoned underneath them, it would not qualify for the height restriction from those.
And then going up Muller Road, the residence is right there as you take your right after Muller Road there. How far is that is it a property line or is it just from a building? How's that 200 feet measured?
It's a property line. It's a planned development district. I'm have to check on that, but it's not directly from the RO district. The
What do you
RO
mean it's not-
district down Muller would play into it, but that's much further down.
No, but the residences, the people that live right off of Muller, is it the condo complex there?
The Seven Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are zone plan development district, and they don't have the same height restriction as the Seven Springs is higher than what I'll be allowed to build in residential, but
No, I mean, I think what you said before was that it's a residential and its proximity to the IHs that they can only build so high. Regardless of how high the Seven Springs is, the proximity of Seven Springs to Cluster B. Is the Seven Springs go all the way out to the end of Blanchard, that property line?
so the corner, Seven
It's too
Springs,
far away.
the Wheeler Muller, that whole property is Seven Springs. There's
Okay.
quite a bit, if you remember, of wetland area and conservation restriction.
Mhm.
There's a piece on Muller Road that is the reserve at Seven Springs that's further down the corner. I'm not showing an aerial. And then the majority of Seven Springs sits kind of central to the site. This corner, there isn't as much development on this corner as there is on that corner when you drive down Old Colony Road past H Mart, where the buildings tuck up against that side a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah, I think I'm talking about the reserve then, because that's right off of Muller.
Yep.
It's not too far off of Muller. It's just right up and you hang a right.
That's zone PDD though, not RO, so.
So
I
is
don't
it,
think
so
that
what
would
you're telling
apply,
me is
Bill.
not, so I'm trying to clarify, when you talked about the ones over near the military housing, that was an RO, it's not just residential, an RO,
It's an RO zone. Yes.
RO
Zone.
zone, and this doesn't apply to the residents here because they're not in an RO zone. They're in
Right.
a PDD, so all bets are off with regard to how high you can build next to it because they're a separate PDD. Is that correct?
The height provision is not, plan development district does not control height of adjacent property. The RO district does. The RO and
yeah.
RG district does.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, could Ernie, can I ask staff or just, ask staff, so once if this zoning change is approved at town meeting, any work that is done on these properties to modify them, say, RJ Keller decides he's gonna take advantage of the IH, new rezoning to IH, he still comes into us for a site plan review.
For
And
any
we,
changes to the site, they fully have to come
Right.
through for you. for
okay,
all
so
special
what
permits.
I'm trying to say is that then we say to him, okay, how much more dense are you gonna make the property? How many more people are gonna work on the site? How much more traffic in and out? And if there is more, which I assume there would be, I don't know how much, then we ask him to, not ask, we require him to mitigate that in increase in traffic. Isn't that correct? And that could be as much as contributing to whatever's going to happen at South Bedford and Cambridge, even though it's in Woburn. Could it not, or am I wrong?
Of course it could. Ernie, you've been on this board longer than I've
Yeah,
been.
I mean, I'm trying
think
to
that's the
remember
conversation every
whether
time.
it's actually happened in another, because it's in another town. So I'm thinking, does that make a difference? I guess it doesn't. So, okay. All right. I'm just trying to get my thinking around the fact that, okay, even though these properties get rezoned to IH, they still have to do whatever anybody else would have to do. They have to come in for site plan approval, and then they have to prove to us that either they're not going to create more traffic, or that if they are, how are they going to mitigate that? Because we know especially at particular times during the day down there, it's gridlock. So, okay, I'm just trying to clarify that. Thank you, Madam.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions or comments that they'd like to make?
Brenda, this is
Oh, wait a
Barbara.
minute, just,
Go ahead, Paul.
hello? Yes, no, I was, when people are talking about what Northeastern is going to do or what they're going to do for us, excuse me, when we permitted Northeastern, we asked them to do some things which were not radical, but would have made the site more of what we envisioned down there, and they just rolled right over us. I mean, they put that huge building, we wanted it positioned at a different angle so that you could have more of an open space in the middle and so forth. They didn't pay any attention to it. They just went down and put that huge thing right back up to Mary Cummings, and you know, I really I don't know why I would expect them to accommodate to the town of Burlington or to the Burlington Planning Board, but they certainly didn't. I never felt more ignored or at a waste of time to try them to get them to do anything. We couldn't even get them to put a path in so that you could walk from their campus around into Mary Cummings. And I think of Northeastern as engineering. I don't think they're going to bring any life science people in, if you want to know the truth. But that's just that doesn't help probably. But that's just my feeling as far as what Northeastern is going to do for us or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Member LaRue?
Hi, yes, I don't have any questions right now, but I'd like to, I might have comment afterwards. I'd like to see if there are any of the neighbors, especially in the area of cluster B, if any of them are present. I know I've received emails from neighbors, and I'd like to hear from them before I comment, if I may.
Of course. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak or ask a question?
Madam Chair, this is Brady. I do see Sherry Ellis's hand up.
Sherry? Sherry, do you want to speak?
Her mute button appears off, but we are not hearing you, Sherry.
Sherry, do you have some, maybe want to type in the chat or?
Or we can circle back from just.
Sure, yeah, let's do that. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak?
Hi, it's Mark Woods, Precinct 7. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Yeah, I live on Eugene Road, which is fairly close to Muller Road and to Blanchard, so I'm very familiar with what's being proposed. And my concerns, I think, have been mentioned previously by others, but I just want to, as a local person who lives in that area, I just wanted to reiterate my concerns. And again, it's from what I understand about biotech, one of the things that attracts people is the ability to walk around and go to stores to get food or to get services. None of that exists on Blanchard Road. There's no sidewalks. There's no bike paths. There's no public transportation. None of this exists. There's no shoulders on the road. It's one of the most dangerous roads in town to walk on. You have to drive extremely slowly going through that area, because if someone's walking on the road, they are literally walking on the road. They are not walking in a shoulder. They're not walking on a sidewalk. There's no way for anybody to walk down there right now unless you want to actually walk out on the road. Additionally, that road floods when we get heavy rains. The swamp can't handle the current water that comes in when we get heavy rain. And I know the town has tried to fix that in the past, and unfortunately, doesn't seem to be getting much better. So I'm all for biotech coming to Burlington. I just don't see how that road can accommodate that type of industry for the type of people who want to work there, who want the services that they're going to get when you compare it to Kendall Square or other parts of Boston. So, and I haven't heard any plan to say how we're going to fix that. So it's wonderful that we want to bring this industry to Burlington. I'm all for it. I just think putting it in that location makes no sense if the infrastructure is not in place to support that type of industry and the type of people who work in that industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Could you also provide us with your last name for the record?
Oh, last name is Woods.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak?
Yeah, yes, I have my hand up.
Mr. Webb?
Yes. Dave Webb, I'm also with, as with Mark, as the town meeting member in Precinct 7. I live on Eugene Road. We both live very close to this development area. And we've been discussing the IH proposals for some time now. I'm also on the Land Use Committee, who did vote for this a week ago. But a lot of doubts have been raised by residents in our area. And the one I'd particularly like to address is one that some of the residents have mentioned, the concern about life sciences and contamination. And I think Kristen, among others, was going to check with the Board of Health on this issue. Do we have any inputs from the Board of Health on what their thinking might be as far as these cluster developments and the life sciences that are coming in? I know they would keep a very close eye on the developments, but I'd like to hear from them on if they have any concerns about, you know, leakages or areas. This area is surrounded by wetlands and also residences, and so we're very concerned about the health aspects. So I don't know, Kristen, especially if you can comment on that. Thank you.
So Madam Chair, if I may, I certainly can.
Please do. Thank you.
So I did have a discussion with Susan Luminello and Christine Mathis and Ed Weiner this afternoon. I am going to their Board of Health meeting next Tuesday to present this this initiative or this petition. As I mentioned with town meeting does start Monday. Very likely they won't get to this project until Wednesday or the following Monday. So I do have the opportunity to go to the Board of Health to discuss this project. I did talk with them today, as Ed, Dr. Weiner has mentioned multiple times. You know, this is certainly not your grandfather's industry in terms of life science and the protections on life science. I will say that the Board of Health has done a magnificent job of upgrading all their rules and regulations. They see every single tenant that comes into Burlington and do a wonderful job reviewing all of the protocols associated with any of these tenants. I mean, I almost wish that, you know, as more industries could go through this type of review, because I mean, they again just are on top of everything. Also, as we've discussed over the last couple of years with this life science initiative in general, there's, you know, federal and state oversight as well to these companies. You know, what you have in your garage is probably more than what you're going to see at, you know, in life science industries in terms of chemicals and hazardous waste and all of that. And everything that they have is regulated by, you know, 3 to 6 different bodies. So I don't want to, I'm not about to speak for the Board of Health or Dr. Weiner or their staff, but I do want to just to reiterate that message that we did talk about today. He did give a very good presentation at the last town meeting, as well as the town meeting January of 2019 when we began this initiative. He was on the panel for biotechnology that we held January of 2019 that I believe is still up on our website, but with new website, I'm not sure, to talk about all of the safety aspects and other things surrounding life science. And his experience and comfort level and encouragement of the industry in Burlington. But to answer those specific questions, I would invite you to attend the Board of Health meeting next Tuesday, where I will be discussing this. So you can, again, I don't want to speak for them, but if there's specific questions you'd like to ask them, I think that is a wonderful time to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Sherry, I saw your question. Did Kristen address your concerns? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just saw your last comment. For those who can't see, she says, thank you for addressing this, and I hope that town meeting will hear the report from the Board of Health following your discussion with them. Thank you, Sherry. Barbara, did you want to chime in?
No, I think I'm comfortable with, I'm very comfortable with our Board of Health. I know that they do a great job, so I feel very comfortable that they'll make sure that it's safe. That's the thing that I was hearing from residents that I think we need to address most urgently. The traffic issues are always a problem here, but those are really, I don't have any additional questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
You have a hand up from Bob Duffy as well.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Thank you.
can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Mr. Duffy. Please feel free.
He's called me Bob. I already a lot of times feel old enough without the Mr. Duffy, but anyway, so family company, I do the leasing, 76, 78 and 80 Blanchard Road. We saw this as a leasing person, it's a good opportunity to maybe broaden the people that might want to go in the building. We have experience over in Waltham. We have a 9-building office park where we have a couple of biotech users in office space. I presented a letter which had some from one of our tenants and from 2 brokerage companies that talked about the parking issue. So I don't necessarily need to, I'm sorry, the density issue. So I don't think I need to go over that because it was pretty widely regarded that biotech tenants are less dense than office tenants and need less parking and less traffic. But there were a couple of points I want to speak to briefly. 78 Blanchard has a beautiful cafe. It's not going to be the answer to everybody. And I know 70 Blanchard has their own cafe. A lot of the 70 Blanchard people actually come over to 78 because I think it's a little nicer. The other thing is because we have tenants in other buildings that are biotech use, we can only have very light biotech users in there. And so before the town even knows about it, at the stage where they're looking at space and we're talking about rent proposals, we take the chemical list of the biotech company, send it to our insurance agent, and then in some instances, send it to an independent consultant to make sure, so we can be sure that there's nothing going on in the building that's going to be a problem. Because if you can ever imagine us putting a light biotech user in an office building and having a biotech problem, it would be a guaranteed lawsuit from every office tenant in the building. So we take a whole bunch of steps ourselves to make sure that this is going to be safe. And like Kristen said, a lot of stuff is stuff that people practically are using themselves or have in their homes. So we weed out things before it even gets to you guys. So there is a long process as far as making sure the people that go in there are safe users. And people in office buildings don't want intense lab people in their building. So I gave examples in my letters, but another good one is another tenant. They're working on a device that can detect cancer cells in blood. Well, if they're going to have blood on the premises, they can't use the kitchen in an office space. They need a little lab because they're dealing with blood. So to get somebody like that, we have to be allowed lab because you can't have blood in the office space unless you have a lab to hold it and put in the microscope and everything else. So, but like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns people have because we do have it in other office buildings. But for our buildings, we think it would be a big, big help opening up potential tenants to light lab users. And including cluster B in this would allow us to do it.
Thank you. Where did you say the offices were in Waltham?
It's all on Waverly Oaks Road and Beaver Street. So it's 1.1 million, 9 buildings, 2,500 tenants are here. Not now because of COVID.
Sure.
And we have them in different buildings. And they're in regular office buildings with lawyers and accountants. And we don't have a problem. You know, we usually ask them if they bring up any canisters to do it in the beginning of the day or the end of the day, because nobody wants to be in a full elevator with someone with a canister. But they're all things that are pretty neutral and safe. And the biotech industry, there's the heavy duty and there's a tremendous amount of very light users that can't afford to go into Cambridge, can't afford to have a big lab built out. But we'll build them a small lab to get a good tenant that's less dense, because we like having less parking too. And like I said in my letter, you know, these are people, all these people are PhDs, they can afford homes in Burlington. I mean, they can afford to go to Burlington, patronize Burlington businesses. These are, I think, really good businesses with employees that might, you know, stick around and raise their families in Burlington.
Great. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Ernie. Could I ask Mr. Duffy a question, please?
Sure. And also, Vice Chair Gaffney, did you have something for Bob as well? Or just a general question?
No, thank you. I think it's been answered with the location. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ernie.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy, can you tell me, and I'm not looking for numbers, but can you charge more for light biotech or life science within a office building than you can regular tenants when you charge your rents?
Yeah, we charge them more because they don't have as many places to go to. And Burlington's a good example of that. Look how much office space you have and how
Right.
few of those buildings can be lab buildings. So they do get charged more. And I know it seems they're happy to be here because they can't go to Cambridge. They can't go to a really high rent district. And so the suburbs are a very good alternative to them.
So the reason for my question, I was looking for the reason that might prompt you to try and attract these tenants even into existing office buildings. So you would just add like a little lab in that office space, and especially we were talking about these people doing the cancer research on blood. That doesn't seem that would require crazy amount of ventilation and whatever. So, but you could charge them more. That's what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, we charge them more. And one of the things I mentioned in my letter, I guess I'll say hypothetically, it's possible you could get the same tax base with less density.
Right, that's where I'm going. Right, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Paul Raymond.
Sure, go ahead, Paul.
One of the reasons that I think if we're going to do this, I'm not in favor of doing it all at once, as I've already indicated, but I certainly think the cinema site, is what those people would be interested in from my own experience and my work. You have the Yard House, I think the name of it is, right down the street. You have Buffalo Bills or whatever it is, another restaurant. And you have the mall. So that's the kind of thing that attracts them as far as interacting with their peers. Because it's, you know, where are you going to lunch today? And so forth. And so that location already has those type of things. You don't have a situation like you do on Blanchard Road, where, you know, somebody mentioned the amount of swamp that's down there. Go down there after a rainstorm. I mean, that place is water everywhere. Up on top of the hill, that would be great. As I say, you know, they could virtually walk down to the mall and have those restaurants there and so forth. So I would think if we were going to do this, that would be the cluster to approve first and see how that goes. And if that doesn't attract them, I don't think that any other site that we have will really.
Thank you, Member. Thank you. Is there anyone else that has something else new to say or a new question to ask or a new comment? You know, we've been talking about this for a couple of meetings, so, you know, I think it would probably be best to move forward and let our vote be our choice. Is there anyone else? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chairman,
Just to clarify, I just wanted to quickly, I have a motion to close all of the matters, but then beyond that, you'll vote by cluster. So cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C.
Right.
So just letting you know.
Thank you, Kristen, for clarifying.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on these matters.
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yep, yes.
Member Impemba,
Yes.
Member LaRue.
Yes.
Okay, may I have another motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the cluster site A. Is that the one on the
Yep.
cinema site?
Yeah, so we'll
Yeah.
it could make a motion for cluster. We'll start with go forward with B and C.
Hey, right.
Excuse me, I made a motion on A, and you're saying that you don't
Yeah.
accept that motion?
Oh, no, I accept that.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you, Paul.
No, you have a perfect right. You're the chair.
Roll call, everyone. So Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member LaRue,
Yes.
Member Impemba.
Yes.
Great. May I have a motion for Life Science Cluster B, please.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning map to rezone parcels located at 70, 76, 78, and 80 Blanchard Road, also known as Cluster B, to the high-rise industrial zoning district as submitted by the planning board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
No.
Member Clerk Raymond,
No.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
No.
Member Impemba,
No.
Member LaRue.
No.
Okay. Let's move on to Life Science Cluster C, please. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning map rezone parcels located 20 Blanchard Road, 99 and 11 South Bedford Street, also known as Cluster C, to the high-rise industrial IH zoning district submitted by the planning board.
Second.
Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
No.
Member Clerk Raymond,
No.
Member Covino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Impemba,
No.
Member LaRue.
No.
Okay. On to the meeting minutes of April 15th, 2021.
Can I have Liz just read the vote count on both B and C?
Sure.
Sorry, I had
So
visitors
I
too.
have a yes for cluster B. I have a yes from Chairman Rappaport, a no from Vice Chair Gaffney. I have a no from Member Clerk Raymond. I have a yes from Member Covino, a no from Member Espejo, a no from Member Impemba, and a no from Member LaRue.
I don't need I just need the number. So it's,
Oh, sorry. So
no, that's
it's
okay.
it
So that's
is
2
2
4
in
0.
favor and 5 against.
Oh, 5, yeah, 2-5, okay. And then for C, what was the count?
It is 3-4.
Okay, so with that, so neither B or C passed.
Correct.
So therefore, what we will, I mean, what you can either, since it's just a recommendation, it doesn't need to be as formal a process, just in terms of, if you were approving or denying, I need you to make another motion, vote on the second motion, because it would be based on approve, deny. But
Right.
for this, that the motion, the favorable motion did not, okay, hold on. Not yet, not yet. Was not able to, gain, the votes needed to pass, so I can pretty much say you are an unfavorable, recommendation
Could
for.
you say that it failed?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm just. Yes, thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, so moving on to the meeting minutes of April 15th, 2021. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of April 15th, 2021 as presented.
Second,
Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gaffney,
Abstain.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Cavino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
yes.
Member Impemba,
Yes.
Member LaRue.
Yes.
Great. So next up is other matters. We need to reestablish the planning board and signature requirements under COVID-19. May I please have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the planning board hereby assigns the chairman to sign any required documents on the entire planning board's behalf, including but not limited to documents associated with special permits, site plans, and subdivisions. This shall remain in place for the length of the COVID-19 state of emergency to the next regularly scheduled planning board meeting preceding the state emergency has ended in Massachusetts.
Thank you. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Chairman Rappaport,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gaffney,
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond,
Yes.
Member Cavino,
Yes.
Member Espejo,
Yes.
Member Impemba,
Yes.
Member LaRue.
Yes.
Thank you. Kristen or Liz, will you be talking about the community planning grant?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, the community one-stop that this includes Mass Works, it includes the Municipal Vulnerability Program, and includes the now community planning grants that are back finally. It's been a long time. It was just in the most recent economic development bond bill. That there are planning grants and feasibility study grants. So what we plan on putting together for the Blanchard Wheeler corridor, as mentioned, is to take a look at the corridor as a whole, how we can, it's kind of half planning, half infrastructure kind of project in terms of upgrading the roadway overall. As mentioned, there's a lot of flooding issues, there's a lot of accessibility issues, mobility issues. We have pieces of a wonderful bike path that do not connect. And we, again, have a wonderful asset with the Mary Cummings property that we've worked hard throughout the trustees management to ensure that we continue to work with them. So when we do want to build sidewalks, off-road paths, bike paths, that we can work with them to and ensure that it's not part of the conservation restriction to allow for permeability into the park, as well as accessibility along the roadway, and in some parts within the park, the edges of the park where roadway right-of-way might not necessarily be available. So that is something that we will be pursuing. We'll be writing that grant application. It's due in June. They make determinations in September. If we are awarded that project and funding for that project, we hope to really do a deep dive in the corridor, create a committee, not necessarily a committee, but a working group, including residents of the neighborhood and others that have been on this call, to really identify what are the we know a lot of the concerns in the neighborhood, but also just, just gain consensus as to really how we want to improve the corridor. I mean, I don't think anyone's looking to make it Burlington Mall Road by any means, but there's issues that we want to make sure that it's workable for motorists, walkers, people who, walk their dog around the neighborhood, and bicycle in those very nice bike paths but in between is kind of a, go, go, go. So and again, as well, we're not as part of this, but certainly continue to work with the MPO in trying to move forward that bottleneck that exists in Cambridge, South Bedford, Bedford Street. So we will be working on that. Hopefully we will be awarded some funding so we can do that project. We believe Blanchard Wheeler is a very important project to take a look at for the commercial district as well as the residents of that area of town. So that is one update. The second update is the Eversource update. Some of you are aware, I think I gave a brief overview a couple meetings ago. We had a meeting 2 months ago with folks from Eversource as well as property owners, town staff, some folks from the chamber, to really just talk about, energy predictions and power predictions moving forward in the future in Burlington. They had done some forecasting into the future power needs. When you look at different types of industries, especially biomanufacturing and life science, you're using a lot of power. You need consistent power. Wanted to make sure that they understood the trajectory that we're looking in diversifying industry, not just for life science, but also for companies like we have here, like Desktop Metal and other 3D printings and medical device companies that are not typical office users and do use quite a bit of power in different ways. And then that coupled with, with the initiatives of the, reducing fossil fuels, then you kind of get further into needing more electrical power and just kind of understanding how they're planning for that and making sure that, that we have enough power needs coming into Burlington to support growing industries. We have no concern that we'll have power for our community and all our residences and all that, but looking at the picture we have now and looking at our growth, the growth that we're looking to target, just making sure that we'll be set for the future. So we're working with them. They've actually been very, very good. That meeting 2 months ago, we had comments like, "Oh, that was so great. We really haven't had a lot of these community meetings," and it was like, "Oh, that's great." So, and we actually have had quite a bit of follow-up, which has been great from Eversource. So anyway, just credit them for being involved in these conversations up front rather than projects come in, no power, or not no power, but just reactionary. We want to be on the front end of the issue. That's that. The last piece is the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness grant update. If you guys remember, maybe 3 years ago now, we went through the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness project to kind of assess where we were as a community to different climate change issues that may happen. What the Conservation Commission is putting together with the BSC group is a grant application to review the Vine Brook watershed and look at the health of the Vine Brook watershed, as well as things that could help with infiltration, water quality, areas where we don't have a lot of pavement, not a lot of stormwater quality devices. They haven't put together the whole grant yet, but I think it's, terrific for especially a watershed that's has run along an older area of commercial districts in the old Burlington, where there is a lot of area that it's somewhat impaired, and to really improve the Vine Brook for Burlington would be fantastic. So they're looking at a grant application for that, and I'm sure the planning department will be involved. They have asked us to draft a letter on your behalf, and Brady, if you don't mind sharing that letter, if you have it, I would like to get some consensus that, as they put that application together, that this board would support that effort. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Brady.
No worries at all. Let me just pull it up real quick.
I don't know if you have to see it. It pretty much says the planning board supports the Conservation Commission grant application to review the Vinebrook watershed for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant Program. There it is. Can you all, let's see, can you zoom in, Brady?
Is this you attached this to the email earlier today, didn't you? Believe? No.
Those were property letters from property owners.
Those
supporting
were, yeah.
so-
Oh, yeah.
This is, I will read it quickly. I'm pleased to provide this letter of support for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program grant application for the behalf of the Town of Burlington Planning Board. It is important that the Town of Burlington fully understands the ramifications of climate change as it relates to the Vinebrook watershed and the vulnerable infrastructure and populations that are located within its boundaries. This vulnerability assessment will help to guide future planning board initiatives and responsibilities, included but not limited to reviewing site plans, special permits, subdivision applications. Conclusions from this assessment will also help to guide future amendments to the zoning bylaw in order to preserve existing development and ensure responsible planning and policy measures are being implemented. On behalf of the Town of Burlington Planning Board, we should probably say we are, writing to express my support for the Town of Burlington Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action Grant Proposal. Hold on, it went away.
Sorry, I switched my screen.
That's okay. As a community, we recognize that building resilience to the effects of climate change is an important effort and requires participation among many stakeholders, and enthusiastic about the opportunity presented by the programs and to advance and implement shared climate change goals. If you are comfortable with that letter and or suggest changes, we can send it around. We do need to have it by the end of the month, pretty much. So we don't need to decide today. If you have comments or additions, we can certainly work on that, but wanted to present it to you and give you guys the opportunity and hopefully support the Conservation Commission's effort in the grant program.
I think it looks great, Kristen. Thank you. Great. Do we have any correspondence? Any reports from town council, subcommittee reports, unfinished business, new business? May I have? Please.
I got one,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Just really recall a number of meetings ago, I asked about the graffiti at the underpass on Wynn Street and who's responsible for that, and you said it was the state, but we didn't know who at the state. So last week I just sent an email to the Mass Dot, and I said, hey, who handles that? And they came back immediately, said, it's going to go to the highway department. A couple of days later, there was someone painting the graffiti under the Wynn Street underpass. So it happened very quickly. So that's who to contact the next time we see something like that is the Mass Dot. Just put an email in and they got right to it. So
Great.
yeah.
Great,
Now, the
thanks,
only thing
Bill.
Thank you.
I
Nice
was thinking
work.
about is that would be a nice place for a mural. If I looked to Barbara, from a street art type of thing. My sister lives in Woburn, so maybe the Battle of Woburn, the reenactment.
I should go down there with
Battle
some
of Wynn
spray
Street.
paint.
The Battle of Wynn Street between the hockey teams. I don't know. But kind of just as I was thinking about that, I think we talked. If you look at, we talked. I think it was the development call we were on there, Mike, where they talked about there's a mural that people expect to change, every season or every half year, right? You've got that, blank wall there, and it's it's I don't know. And again, me with murals, I'm not a big fan of it, but if it's controlled and tastefully done, and but I'm sure that future generations of Burlingtonites may use it to enhance the graffiti versus if somebody puts something up there anyway. So there's two schools of thought on that. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Bill. Nice work. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Madam Chair, wonderful job, your first meeting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay. Good night.
Chairman Rappaport.
Oh, We can't leave yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Vice Chairman
Not
Gaffney.
yet.
Yes.
Member Clerk Raymond.
Yes.
Member Cavino.
Yes.
Member Espejo.
Yes.
Member Impemba.
Yes.
Member LaRue.
Yes.
Great.
Night,
Night,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a great Mother's Day weekend. Take care.
You too.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.